I had sex with a girl I hated, and then it happened again. I had sex with a girl I've hated this girl since high school. Let's just call her Cindy. I don't even remember how it started exactly. She was always in my circle of friends, but we clashed on every little thing. She'd roll her eyes. I had sex with a girl. I hated my jokes. I'd make snide comments about her taste in music, typical petty stuff. But it got worse when we ended up at the same college. It felt like every time I turned around, she was there judging me being a smartass. Once we got into a screaming match at a party over who was supposed to pick up the damn pizza. She called me a lazy piece of crap. I told her she needed to get off her high horse and learn how to have fun. Our friends had to pull us apart because we were both so close to throwing punches. After that, it was on sight. I'd avoid her when I could, but if we were in the same room, we'd find some stupid reason to fight. She'd mock me in front of everyone, and I'd fire back twice as hard. It was like we had this unspoken agreement. Total hatred. Then last New Year's Eve happened. We were at a mutual friend house for a party. The place was packed, everyone drinking, laughing, music blasting. I was drinking a beer in the kitchen, trying to stay out of the way when I saw her across the room. She looked annoyed, like she didn't want to be there. I don't know why, but I felt the need to tease her. So I walked over, still pretending to like people for clout. She turned to me so fast, I thought she was going to slap me, and you're still the guy who brings cheap beer to parties. Like anyone wants that crap at least. I don't show up to parties looking like I just rolled out of bed. Screw you, why are you even talking to me? Because it's hilarious watching you try to act like you're better than everyone when you're clearly miserable. That's when it turned into a full-blown argument. She started tearing into me about my grades, my major, even the way I dress. I threw it back, bringing up how she's always alone at these parties, how nobody really likes her. We ended up in the secluded corner of the house yelling at each other like maniacs. But then it got weird. There was this pause where we were just staring at each other, breathing heavy. She was right in my face. And before I could even process what was happening, she kissed me. And I kissed her back. That is all I can remember from that night. When I woke up the next morning, my head was pounding and my mouth felt like sandpaper. I wasn't hung over. Wasn't that kind of night, but I couldn't shake this heavy, sinking feeling. I sat up on the couch, realizing I hadn't even made it to my bed. After getting home, empty cans were scattered on the coffee table, and someone's jacket was over a chair. It took a second for the night to come back to me. Her upstairs room. I stood up too quickly and had to grab the arm of the couch to steady myself. I paced the room, trying to process. It wasn't just the fact that we'd hooked up, it was the way it happened, out of nowhere, out of anger, out of she. Whatever the hell it was, I thought about texting her. But what would I even say? Hey, good seeing you last night. Great argument. Amazing sex. Let's never do that again. It sounded stupid, even in my head. So I didn't do anything that afternoon. I had plans to meet some friends for lunch, and I figured getting out of the house would clear my head. But as soon as I walked into the diner, I spotted her sitting at a booth with two of our mutual friends. She didn't see me at first, so I stood there like an idiot, wondering if I could just turn around and leave, but then one of the guys waved me over, and it was too late. I walked over, putting on the fakest smile of my life. Hey, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. She looked up, and for a second our eyes met. I couldn't tell if she was about to laugh or kill me. Hey, she said, barely acknowledging me, before going back to her phone. The guys started talking about something sports, I think, but I couldn't focus. My brain was running a mile a minute. Was she going to bring it up? Was I supposed to bring it up? Was this just going to be a thing we pretended never happened? At one point, when the guys nudged me, you good man, you're quiet. Yeah, fine. Just tired. I said, trying to sound normal tired. That's new. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, she said, smirking slightly before going back to her phone. The rest of lunch was uneventful, but the tension between us was suffocating. Every time someone made a joke, I'd catch her looking at me, and I'd look away like an idiot. By the time I left, I was more exhausted than when I got there that night. I went to another friend's place to hang out, and of course, she was there again. This time, she was sitting on the floor, playing some card game with a group of people. She didn't even look at me when I walked, and I grabbed a beer from the kitchen and stayed on the other side of the room, trying to avoid her altogether. But every so often, I'd catch myself looking her way. The way she leaned forward when it was her turn, the way she laughed at something someone said, it was like my brain was hyper-focused on her for no reason. At one point, she got up and went into the hallway. I don't know what came over me, but I followed her. She was leaning against the wall, looking through her phone. You good? I asked, keeping my distance. Why wouldn't I be? I don't know, just checking you follow me, just ask if I'm good. Yeah, I guess okay then. I'm fine, thanks for the concern. Are we going to talk? About it, talk about what you know what. She put her phone in her pocket. No, we're not. Why not? Because it doesn't matter, we hooked up. And now we're just supposed to act like nothing happened. Yeah, pretty much, she said, walking past me and heading back to the living room. I stood there for a minute staring at the spot where she'd been feeling like an idiot all over again. The next week, I tried to avoid her. I skipped a couple parties. I knew she'd be stayed off social media and focused on school. But no matter what I did, I couldn't stop thinking about her every time I walked past the coffee shop where we used to run into each other. I'd look inside half, expecting to see her sitting by the window. Finally, I decided to text her. It wasn't much, just a simple, "Can we talk?" Her response came almost immediately about what you know, what she didn't reply after that. And I was left staring at my phone like an idiot. A few days later, I ran into her again, this time at a study session our mutual friends had organized. We were sitting across the table from each other, both pretending to focus on our notes while stealing looks. When we thought no one was looking at one point, she leaned over and whispered, "You're distracting me. What, you keep staring at me? You're the one who keeps looking at me, okay?" Whatever was the smallest thing. But it felt like the beginning of something new, like this weird, unspoken understanding between us. I didn't know where it was going, but I couldn't let go of the feeling that we were headed for another collision. It didn't take long for things to escalate again. A week after that awkward study session, I found myself at another party, this time at some guy's house. I barely knew. I wasn't planning on staying long, just a quick drink, and then home. But as soon as I walked into the living room, I saw her standing near the fireplace, talking to a group of people. She was laughing at something, holding a cup in her hand, and for a second, I thought about leaving before she noticed me too late. She turned her head and locked eyes with me. Her smile faded for a split second before she put it back on and turned back to her group. I grabbed a drink from the kitchen and tried to stay out of her way, but of course fate had other plans. A couple of hours, and I was sitting on the couch with some friends, and she walked right past me. Someone called her over, and she sat down in the armchair directly across from where I was sitting for the next 20 minutes. It was like we were locked in some weird standoff. She'd make a comment, and I'd respond, each of us throwing little jabs like we were testing the waters. At one point, someone brought up an argument they were having about a movie, and she chimed in, "Well, some people just don't get nuance," she said, "and some people think they're experts on everything better than being clueless." You keep telling yourself that. The room got quiet for a second, and then someone laughed nervously and changed the subject a little. While later, I stepped outside to get some air. The backyard was mostly empty, just a couple of people huddled by the fire pit. I leaned against the fence trying to let go of the tension when I heard the sliding door open behind me. Or a real piece of work, that I turned around, and there she was staring me down like I'd personally ruined her night. "Excuse me, you heard me? Oh, why do you always have to start crap me you're the one who made?" That passive-aggressive comment about the movie, "Oh, grow up, not everything's about you could have fooled me, you're impossible." And you're exhausting. For a second, we just stood there looking at each other. I don't know what I was expecting, maybe for her to storm off, maybe for me to say something to diffuse the situation. But instead, she grabbed the front of my shirt and yanked me down her level. "Do you ever shut up, do you?" And then for the second time, we kissed. This one wasn't like the first. It wasn't sudden or surprising. It was deliberate, like we both knew exactly what we were doing and didn't care we broke apart. When we heard someone cough behind us, one of the guys from the fire pit was standing there looking anywhere but at us. Sorry, she stepped back, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. "This doesn't mean anything, obviously." I said, "Good, great." She turned and walked back inside, leaving me standing there wondering how the hell we'd managed to screw things up even more the next day. I ran into her at the library. I was sitting at one of the big communal tables trying to focus on my notes when I felt someone drop their bag in the chair across from me. I looked up, and there she was looking at me like this was my fault. "What are you doing here?" I asked, studying. "What are you doing here?" "Same, fine." We sat there for a while, both pretending to focus, but clearly aware of the other person. Every time I looked up, she was scribbling something in her notebook or tapping her pen against the table. It was the most awkward hour of my life. At one point, I got up to grab a coffee from the cart in the hallway. When I came back, she was gone, but there was a sticky note on my notebook that said, "You're an idiot." I couldn't help but smile. It was the first time I'd smiled about the whole situation since it started that night. I found myself thinking about her again, about the way she looked at me, the way she challenged me, the way she somehow managed to get under my skin in a way no one else. Everett, I didn't know what to make of it, but I couldn't let go of the feeling that we weren't done yet, not by a long shot. The third time it happened, it wasn't even at a party. It was raining, and I was walking back to my apartment. After a late class, I was soaked because, of course, I forgot my umbrella. I turned the corner onto my street, and there she was standing under the awning of a little bakery with her arms wrapped around a bag of groceries. She saw me before I could pretend I hadn't seen her. "Forgot your umbrella," she called out. Yeah, thanks for noticing, she smiled, and I felt the urge to turn around and walk the other way, but instead I jogged across the street and ducked under the awning with her. What are you doing here? I asked, waiting for the rain to stop. She said, you live 3 blocks away. And you live for, what's your point? We stood there for a while, watching the rain come down in sheets. It wasn't awkward exactly, but it wasn't comfortable either. She opened her bag and pulled out a small loaf of bread, tearing off a piece and putting it in her mouth. You want some? She asked, holding out bread. No, my groceries. Yes, bread. I hesitated before taking a piece. This is weird. Right, what is this, us standing here talking? It's just bread. It's not just bread. What do you want to say? You want to talk about it? Fine. Let's talk. It happened again. It keeps happening. And I don't know what to do about it. So unless you have some brilliant idea, maybe we should just stop. Pretending it's a big deal is a big deal. Why? Because it is great argument genius. I didn't respond. I couldn't. She was right. And I hated that she was right. The rain started letting up, and she stepped out from under the awning. I'm going home. She said, you can keep standing here if you want, but I've got better things to do. I don't know what came over me, but I grabbed her arm before she could leave. She turned back, looking at me like she was ready to tear me apart. Come over. I said, what come over my? Place is closer. She stared at me for a long moment, and then without saying a word, she stepped back under the awning and waited for me to lead the way. We didn't talk much on the walk back. The rain had mostly stopped, but the streets were still slick, and the air was cold enough to make us both shiver. By the time we got to my apartment, we were wet, and I had to rummage through my closet to find something dry for her, to where she disappeared into the bathroom to change, and I sat on my bed staring at the floor, wondering if I just made the biggest mistake of my life, when she came out wearing one of my old hoodies and a pair of sweatpants that were too big for her. Don't say a word, she warned, sitting down in the chair across from me. I wasn't going to go. We sat there in silence for a while, the only sound coming from the rain still dripping off the roof outside. This is stupid, she said. Finally, I know. Then why are we doing it? I don't know. She got up and started talking around the room, running her fingers through her hair like she was trying to work something out in her head. This doesn't mean anything. Yeah, you said that last time. And I meant it. Sure, you did. She stopped walking and turned to look at me. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're lying to yourself, to me, to everyone. Oh, and you're not? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, she was on me again, her hands in my hair, her lips on mine. This time there was no hesitation, no moment of doubt. It was like everything we'd been holding back finally broke loose. Afterward, we ended up in the kitchen, sitting on the floor with a half-empty bottle of wine between us. She was staring at the ceiling, her legs stretched out in front of her, while I leaned back against the cabinets trying to figure out what to say. I should go, she said eventually, but she didn't move. Yeah, probably she stayed the 4th time it happened. I started to think maybe this wasn't just some random stupid thing. But then again, nothing about us had ever made sense. So why would this? It was a Saturday afternoon. I was at a local park for a picnic my friends had thrown together, the kind of thing where everyone brings random stuff and nobody knows what they're doing, but it's fun. Anyway, I was sitting on a blanket finishing off a sandwich when I saw her walking up the hill toward us. She wasn't carrying anything, just her phone in one hand and a jacket slung over her arm. Seriously, she spotted me and made a beeline in my direction, ignoring everyone else. She sat down on the corner of the blanket without a word and stole one of the beers from the cooler. Didn't know you'd be here, I said. Same. The tension was immediate. Our friends kept looking at us like they could sense something was off, but no one said anything. Eventually, someone suggested a game of Frisbee, and most of the group wandered off, leaving just the 2 of us sitting there. You follow me now? I asked, half joking. Don't flatter yourself. I came for the free food. Right, we sat in silence for a while, watching the others laugh and run around like kids. This isn't working, she said suddenly. What isn't this? Us? Whatever this is. I didn't respond, because honestly, I didn't know what to say. She was right, it wasn't working, but I wasn't ready to admit that out loud. You're impossible, she said. Where are you going? Anywhere. But here I got up and followed her, ignoring the confused looks from our friends. She walked down the hill and into woods, and I stayed right on her heels until we were far enough away that no one could hear us. Why do you always do this? I said. Do what? Run away? Every time things get hard, run away. I'm not the one who's been pretending like nothing's wrong. I'm not pretending crap. We were back to our usual routine, yelling, throwing blame, pushing each other's buttons. But this time it felt different. It felt final. Just admit it, she said. You hate me. I don't hate you. Then what is this? I don't know. I said, I don't know what is okay, but I don't hate you. She stared at me like she was trying to figure out if I was lying. This is stupid, she said, turning away. Yeah, it is. Then why are we still doing it? Because we don't know how to stop. She didn't say anything to that. And for a long time, we just stood there listening to the wind rustling through the trees. Finally, she said, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, me neither. We walked back to the picnic inn. Silent, she took her jacket and left without saying goodbye, and I stayed behind pretending to have a good time while my friends asked if everything was okay. That was 2 weeks ago, and I haven't seen her since. I thought I'd feel relieved, like a weight had been lifted, but instead it's like there's this empty space where she used to be. Maybe we were never meant to work, maybe we were too different, too stubborn, too messed up, or maybe we were just too alike. Whatever. It's over now, and I have no idea what to do next. Thanks, outro, for watching. If you like the story, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.